Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike. Welcome, everybody, to Minutes with Mike. I have the lovely and wonderful Alice Audley with us today. I'm very excited. Hello, Alice. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Alice is the founder and CEO of bCreator and the bCreator Awards. Alice, we're going to do a lot of talking about the bCreator, but I wanted to jump into it and welcome you by asking you to tell everybody who you are, what got you started, where have you been? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am Alice Audley and I am the founder of bCreator, which I founded all the way back in 2013. We actually started life as a print magazine, and so the idea for that came because I had done a postgraduate diploma in journalism, and whilst I was on that course, they told me that I needed to start a blog if I wanted to get into the world of media. So I started it as a means to an end, and then was going about trying to find a job that I thought was going to be easy, and then ended up in a premature midlife crisis, being like, oh dear, maybe. I did actually 6 weeks of headhunting recruitment and just felt like my creativity falling into the keyboard. And then I remember my family saying, the thing is, Alice, you could do that and just write on the side. No, I identify as a writer. I shall be a writer. So was pursuing, trying to find a job. And I went to, they weren't going very well, but I went to one particularly bad one that had taken about 5 rounds to get to the last interview, whereupon they changed what the job sort of prescription was, and that it wasn't as much editorial, it was more PR. And I remember I came back from that interview, and rather than turn on the TV or listen to music, the first thing that I did was to read one of my favourite travel bloggers called Lauren Juliff, who ran Never-Ending Footsteps. And I read through her archive. My appetite still wasn't sated, so I wanted to read more, and then I started looking. And I realised at that point just how saturated the blogosphere at the time was, and for every good blog that was out there, there were 10s that were out of date or badly written, and trying to look for them was just a really overwhelming experience. The lists that were recommending bloggers were written by PR companies or marketing agencies that all had some sort of element of bias. I was like, who better to tell you than bloggers themselves? And then it was that sort of like light bulb moment where I wonder if you could do that not just in travel, but if you could do it over all of the different sectors. But then I was thinking, how can you get all of these people who exist online and already have big audiences to come into one place, to curate the blogosphere? And then I realised if they're already online, you've got to be offering something different. So what's different to online print? What are bloggers? Bloggers are writers. What do writers like? I'm a writer. What do I like seeing my name in print? So that's where the idea started. And I think Lauren may have been the first person that I contacted and said, would you like to come aboard? And we had editors for each section, and then they would pick 5 blogs that they recommended. And we had Estee Lalonde as our first ever cover star, who was Essie Button back in the day. And it just grew from there, really, and built out a big community of people that were reading the magazine. My blog that I'd started had led me to getting a job at the Daily Telegraph. So I did actually land the dream job through my blog. I'd already come up with the idea for blogosphere, so there was this sort of tussle for a couple of years. But then the mainstream press were really picking up on the scale of this new industry, and it was like,
I was going to just say exactly that. Good segue was, it certainly takes a writer, and, as you worked up your way up the chain and then landed at the Daily Telegraph and started on your career, it takes a writer to realize through these blogs, especially in the initial stages of when blogs had just become part of our world, right? This is before vlogs, with a V. There was no vlogs. no podcasts yet. People weren't getting into that sort of video strategy. They were really focused a lot of time on these blogs, including us at PIMS, and people have them on personally as well. But the problem always being, as you mentioned, is some of them, start out all well and good. People are going to do this every week. It turns into every other week, turns into every month, and then they start running out of content or running out of ideas or just get bored with the whole concept. I think it takes a writer to realize, looking at those, maybe I could do this better, or, you have a dream to start your own, looking at those as to, the do's, what to do's, and what not to do's. But I wanted to ask you too about blogs themselves in 2025. Still relative?
I am seeing a resurgence in the blog, but in the form of Substack, which is very exciting. I do want to just touch upon your point, though, as a writer, knowing how to structure a piece and the consistency and how to interview and things like that. But what journalists didn't really understand, there was quite a lot of lack of education of actually how hard it was to be a blogger, because it isn't just being a writer, it's being a marketer. When the brand deals started coming through, you're doing contracts before you've got agents into the industry. When video started, you're your own editor. There are so many things that would actually, in a media company, have a whole desk full of people that were doing that output, and that was in one person. But yes, I am seeing a resurgence in blogs in the form of Substack, and we're seeing a lot of people who were, the OGs that are now coming full circle back onto Substack. And it's a really nice sense of nostalgia and community, which 2025, the word of the year thus far seems to be community when it comes to creators, which is music to my ears, because we've gone through some waves, but now it's coming back to the human element.
Really has. And, you touched upon something too with that traditional media. Again, not having been in this industry for 35 years, I've seen when I first started, there was no creators, there were no influencers. It was media based, right? If you were sending out new marketing items or press releases, as the PR firms would send out, that was the big thing. 35 years ago, they were sending out 2 or 3 page press releases by the thousands to a huge group, or trying to create a community by sending this out to a huge group and hoping it would, land somewhere where somebody would get some press. Now, that traditional media of TV, radio, magazines, newspaper, even wire services still exists, but it's not maybe taking a back seat, in my humble opinion. And what I'm reading and hearing is these creators, these influencers have taken over, not only for a source of marketing genius, of getting new products out to folks, but the news itself, right? We have a new president over here, President Trump, and he has stated a number of times that he got a whole big grouping of the young vote because his son had told him, you need to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, or you need to go on this podcast. Not the news, not the New York Times, but these podcasts, these giant podcasts that have huge audiences. Tell me a little bit about how you saw that coming, and you seem to have picked up the perfect spot to be in as this becomes so gigantic now. How did you see it coming? What little things did you see along the way as it started to boom?
Yeah, it's funny, actually, because I've been in it for so long, but it is still relatively new for so many people. So it's strange that I feel like this is a real coming of age this year, where huge organizations are finally taking creator seriously and putting that as part of their strategy from the beginning, as opposed to being an add-on, and actually really investing thought into it as well as funds. It's an exciting place to be. I think I was just obsessed and engrossed in the space already, having my own blog. And I think maybe it was, seeing how many people were commenting on people's blogs. You have some with hundreds of people that were engaged, and it's just exciting to realize that people were cultivating these communities online. And then when you had something like Twitter, now X, but that was sort of one of the first platforms that the bloggers were joining, and you could obviously see then how these audiences that were growing Facebook pages. I remember probably stumbling across Zoella's Facebook page, might have been in 2013, with already 1 million people following it, being like, wow. And then 2014 was really when the mainstream picked up on YouTubers and the rise and birth of the vlogger in mainstream coverage. See, the first sort of wave of YouTubers was 2006. but with Charlie is so cool. I think he was 2006. But then you had the sort of Zoe, Alfie, Tanya, Louise Pentland. I think they were more around the 2009 stage, and then were being picked up in 2014. And as somebody that had always aspired to be a journalist and work in the press, I think I got my headline and on the front page in 2014 as well. And it was like, this is my lifelong dream. And I was probably only 25 or something at the time. And that was an amazing day. And I was like, wow, I've been here. But still, everything was calling me that the more exciting stuff was happening with my other idea. And actually, journalism has been brutal. And it's, I left journalism in 2015 to go full time with bCreator, formerly Blogosphere, in 2016. But during my tenure, there were so many redundancies, and those redundancies were happening with really senior staff who were sort of at the peak of their careers. So as a younger journalist looking at the trajectory, it made the decision to leave an easier one.
I remember reading, or I listened to a podcast you were talking on, and you had mentioned that blogosphere. Did you do directories too? Talking about community, did you create sort of directories? Because I think a lot of people who are going to be watching this and listening to this never heard of a Bacon's or these media directories, which was big back then, right?
Yeah.
25 years ago or 20 years ago, if you went onto the shelf of every PR department of any big company or these PR firms, they would have not one Bacon's directory, but a slew of them where people would get, there's no email addresses, but names and phone numbers and addresses and titles and that sort of stuff. Did you delve into that world a little bit?
I think I probably said before, using an idea that like blogosphere was sort of the yellow pages, as it were, for creators in different categories.
That's it, yes.
But there is that safety of the tangible that you can pick it up and put it down. You're not going to lose it. You don't have to have all of these tabs open. So the spine of the magazine was this directory element. But then over the years, we built out and did more direct interviews with creators as well. And I think it got to 196 pages at one point. So it's like, make it bigger. Let's take them all out. Let's do more. And then, from the magazine, we built this amazing community, which was of creators. So aspiring creators or creators. And then you'd be getting the brands that would buy it and use it. And we had so much feedback that if you were featured in the magazine, the work that it led to. And actually, what's quite nice is that's what the awards is now. So the awards is celebrating creators over lots of different categories, but you have a shortlist and there are 6 creators shortlisted, and the feedback that we've had from creators has changed their careers because it's that sort of recognition, which is lovely to still be able to do, but in an IRL sort of format. It was a natural progression. The first award started in 2017. It was actually the idea of a lady that worked for me. Alice, I really think that we need to be doing awards. I was like, absolutely not, Albertine. We've got busy with the magazine. And she pushed and pushed me. And thank God she did, because obviously now that's like what we're both most renowned.
I wrote it down here just so I wouldn't get it wrong, but somebody had posted something on LinkedIn or mentioned something online that I saw, and it said that they called you the tenacious flag bearer for UK creator marketing. And I read that a couple times and I was like, wow, please say that about me one day. It's an amazing title to bestow upon you. I wish I remembered who said it, but
I was going to say, who said that? That's great. Maybe I'll put that on my LinkedIn.
Minutes with Mike says, boom.
Yeah.
Let's get into the bCreator. So you touched upon how it all kind of started, but it has been, whether the creator of it being you thinks so or not, this thing has become immense.
Yeah.
I am certainly involved in all the groups and communities that talk about it pre, during, and post event. I haven't attended yet, but I definitely plan on doing so. But it is massive and wonderful, and the different groups that are involved in it and the ceremony itself. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, you said it started in 2017, or the first awards were in 2017?
Yeah, the first awards were in 2017. There were 100 people in a photo studio in West London.
That's why I wanted to ask you. It's always the humble beginnings, but probably the hardest one too, just getting everything going and started.
Yeah, so Blog Awards 2017.
What has it become? Like, tell us about how did the
How do the awards come about? What different topics does it display? Who generally are up for those type of awards? Tell me a little bit about the ceremony itself.
So really started as an extension of the magazine. So the categories that were in the magazine became categories in the awards. So you'd have Beauty Creator of the Year, which is now called Beauty bCreator of the Year. So we've got our trademark, that's quite nice. And then that was 2017. 2018 was 150 people in a church in Shoreditch. And then in 2019, that was a real pivotal year change for us, where TikTok actually came on board as our headline sponsor. They had recently rebranded from Musical.ly, and it seems unfathomable now to think that people wouldn't really know what TikTok was. But back in 2019 in the UK, they'd only just started building out that team. And so, really got behind the awards, first social platform to do, and it just changed the game. So we moved to 250 people. We had a flash mob. We had a robotic camera. It was just so fun. It was so good. And so from there, it was, okay, we're going to concentrate on the events now. This will be like the strategy. This is where people seem to be most interested. So beginning of 2020 was a brilliant year, all lined up, really nice. Then we obviously know what happened in 2020. So the decision to pivot and concentrate on live events was a little bit of a shocker. But we got through that just about, did some virtual events. It wasn't quite the same thing. We had lots of avatars going around and doing
it was a tough one. One day we'll tell the next generation about how we got through that, but you're right. I can't imagine it.
It was a strange time. And then we actually came back with the awards in 2021, which was quite early, so it was a little bit of a risk. But that has got a very special place in my heart. Just to go back, in 2019, we also started introducing some industry categories as well, so best brand campaigns, because we want the awards, and what bCreator stands for is the whole of the creator economy, and celebrating and lifting and raising the voices and taking it all seriously. Because I think that for a long time, especially during my days in journalism, there was often a skepticism of what actually it was, and that they didn't have to work very hard and were just making loads of money sitting in their rooms, and it just became so boring. Like, most famous person you've never heard of, it's like, I don't want to hear this again. It's like, these people are working incredibly hard and quite rightly reaping like the rewards. So in 2021, our Creator of the Year went to a lady called Grace Victory, and Grace had caught COVID in 2020, December 2020, while she was, I think she was sort of 7 or 8 months pregnant. Maybe that might be wrong, so let's caveat that. I think she was around that stage, and caught COVID, had to have an emergency C-section, met her baby, and the next day was put into a coma. And she was in a coma until, I think she tweeted that she'd woken up, I believe it was on the 8th of March. And she had to learn how to walk again, talk again. She died, I think, twice and had to be resuscitated during that time. It was just, unbelievable. And she'd already had such a good community, but the rallying around and the wishes while she was, under, was just this powerful force. And so she actually won our Creator of the Year, because it's a mix between panel and public vote, which really is huge. And she came to that event. That was the first, I think, event back. And when she was announced as winner, the whole room, I have never seen or heard or experienced anything like it. The volume, everyone was standing on their chairs.
Amazing.
It gives you goosebumps. It was just all of that love and championing and celebration, and just so happy. And I said to her in the interview, like, what did that actually feel like when you heard that reaction? I didn't hear anything. She honestly was all silent to her. She was just,
That's amazing.
And so that was really special, and I think really a testament to the community and industry, and just the people that really care. And that's what we get time and time again from creators that have come to the awards, that it is a safe space. So that was an amazing moment. There have been many. So then we moved on, and YouTube came on board in 22. Then we went in, they were there 22, 23, 24. We went to the Roundhouse in 23, which was a big moment. We had Virgin Voyages headline. And then last year was the first year that ITV came on board as a category sponsor.
I saw that you've
And
rebranded. Tell us about that.
yeah, we rebranded from Blogosphere to bCreator in 2023. ITV came on board as a category sponsor last year, and they were sort of dipping their toe in the water, and I don't think really knew what to expect, and then came to the event, and I went in a couple of weeks afterwards thinking, I need to do my sell now for 2025, and they're like, we have to do this. So that's great. Sounds easy. Yeah, fab. So they've come on board as our headline partner for 2025, and as part of that is a lockdown logo. So this year we are the ITV bCreator Awards, and I think it's another big moment, not just for us, but for the whole creator community in the UK. ITV are the biggest commercial media network in the UK. And just having that endorsement and having a legacy sort of traditional media also taking the new media seriously is a really nice fusion. And for those who are still higher up and are not necessarily like au fait with creator, having been like, oh, okay, ITV, yeah, it just adds a bit of extra kudos. So yeah, happy to have them and to be aligned with them. And they're doing some really interesting things in the creative space and are building out a dedicated team to really invest like time and energy. And that is perfect for us in a brand partner.
If you need any U.S. presence with the judges, I'm certainly available. But
It's the US expansion, I wonder. We are known now as the Oscars for creators, which I didn't come up with
I had that written down too. You beat me to it. I was going to say that too, but that's wonderful as well. That's fabulous. You talked about something when you were explaining it, when you talked about TikTok, and definitely one of the things I wanted to ask about. We are currently in a stage now in the U.S. where it is up for grabs whether TikTok is going to be banned, whether it will continue, whether people are going to have to pivot. Again, politically, they're looking for a U.S. part owner or ownership of TikTok to continue it going.
How long was it down for? 23 hours?
No, I don't even think that much. But everybody was in a panic. Everybody was like running for the, what's next. And then they came in and said, okay, we're going to extend it. I think it was like 90 or 75 days, something like that. So we're kind of in the hover period. Maybe you could talk to me a little bit about what your thoughts or expectations are on that. How does it affect the UK for those who don't know, like me? Does your government have similar thoughts about how it works? And have you been threatened with the shutdown? And where do you think this will go?
And I might be misquoting, but I believe I heard that someone in the UK government was saying, no, we wouldn't shut down something that's like videos of dance routines. So I don't think that the same sort of level of scrutiny is come under over here. I think that there'll be a ripple effect. So I think there's unease knowing that something like that could even happen, if albeit for a short amount of time, with people's strategies, and people will be a bit shaken. I think the creators themselves, it'd be a very sorry state of affairs. I don't know the ins and outs of the actual sort of political side, and is it that thinking of spying or things like that. But just looking at it from a creative's perspective, that platform really changed the game and allowed so many people to flourish. Really is a platform that was based so much on entertainment and being able, it wasn't about how many followers you had. If the content thrived, you could be seen, and some amazing creators have come out of it. I think as a creator, we've always said throughout the years of the magazine, and even so many articles being like, diversify your streams and where you are, and where you can own your audience. So I do think that actually newsletters and the likes of that are important, and really trying to get your audience to somewhere that you have autonomy over. But who knows? I would hope it would stay. I think that actually it feels like a 2025 thing really, that we're seeing a lot of the social media platforms becoming a little bit more politicized than they once were, whether that's from, I think it was Mark Zuckerberg saying that they're going to be reducing their diversity and inclusion programs. So it's moving in a direction that isn't aligned with what bCreator stands for, but we're about the creators on the platforms as opposed to the platforms themselves in a way.
Somebody told me on one of my podcasts, and ever since this person said it, It made me think. Creators are also influencers, but influencers aren't always creators, right? There's that
Mm,
sort of weighing experience. There are people that are influencers that just take other people's creations and just check a box for a payday or what have you, or there are different ways to think about that. But what brings to mind is the relationships of creators with brands, right? There's paid media, there's not paid media in the influencer world, and creators, as they tie in with brands, I would assume changes quickly, right? What the expectations were for creators working with brands 2 or 3 years ago has completely changed. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Like, how does how are brands working with creators? Are they micromanaging the folks themselves? Do they kind of give them a lot of broad strokes? Does it depend on the creator itself? Talk to me a little bit about that.
well, I would say on the whole that I think it's improved as the space has matured because brands realise that they can't be 100% prescriptive about what somebody should do and have every single editorial control. Obviously, there is key messaging, but a creator is the one that knows their audience the best and knows what's going to resonate with them and actually influence their audiences to whatever is it to be aware of something or to actually like purchase. But I think we started off, a decade ago, very much as a PR vehicle. Then money started coming into the space. It was, oh, we can pay people, probably underpay people, and just buy essentially an out-of-home ad, but like on an Instagram account. And whilst in the first sort of brain of that being like, oh, it's so exciting that you can actually make money from your hobby, then when it moved into a career and so much money was being pumped around and campaigns just weren't, they sort of lost the PR and the story and were just doing ads. And that doesn't sit right and does alienate your audience. A creator called Sarah Tasker actually said in one of our interviews in the magazine, be careful of how many things you ask your audience. Like the relationship is give and take. So what are you able to offer anything back? And when it becomes just a billboard, you do lose like relatability. If those ads don't really sit authentically with yourself. But now I think the power balance is changing a bit and brands are realizing that they need to be taking creators seriously, recognizing their audiences and actually putting a bit more budget and therefore having a bit more time and resource into thinking about what that campaign looks like. Because an ad doesn't have to be, you don't need to like wince and just get through an ad. Ads can be enjoyable. And that's when the beauty of those relationships start. I think definitely what we're seeing now, so much of it has been the onus on the creator being like, they need to be authentic. Actually now creators are looking at the brands and we're asking a lot more, even when that's coming into joining a business and the recruitment process. We have more asks of our employer. And likewise, creators have more asks of the brands. They stand for the right causes. Are they genuinely interested in creator and investing into the space? Are the campaigns that they're doing, diverse, inclusive? So we're getting to a better place, I think. But what we're also seeing are, creators launching their own brands, owning their audiences, subscription models, production studios, because they know what sits right on these platforms that brands are wanting to get involved in. So we're seeing a big push and numerous kind of companies starting in that production element space. Podcast studios set up by creators. So creators are, entrepreneurs. And so I think brands are going to have to fight a bit harder to, or maybe, and they'll be creating stuff together, like their own sort of IP. So using maybe creators on their own channels and building out that. So you're not just borrowing the space, you're actually owning it. I think this is all the year about ownership and communities.
Definitely. Absolutely. Good point. Excuse me, we talk about TikTok and, I've heard a lot about TikTok Shop, right? People are finding a way to monetize these creators. I think, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? There was this one video of a gentleman on a skateboard drinking iced tea, brisk
Oh
iced tea.
yeah,
You remember that one?
yeah.
It was huge. And somebody was showing me like the ROI based on, and I don't think that the guy talked during the video. He was just like, Fleetwood Mac was playing
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
was
yeah.
drinking this iced tea. And they were talking about like the upsell of sales for the iced tea company, as well as Fleetwood Mac songs,
Mm,
skateboarding, whatever apparel he was wearing. You have a guy a creator that was just out having a ride and decided to film himself. And then after the fact was like, after I got 100 million views, like, how can I monetize this? I think now with TikTok Shop, the expectations are, at least with some of these brands, that, aside from retail, they can sell these items through these creative aspects of creators creating their own world, right? Whether it be a long term, over the course of weeks and months, I'm going to create this sort of playhouse that I'm going to sell this stuff in, or like my son's really into baseball cards, right? So
Yeah.
he showed me these guys that buy these old packs of baseball cards, open up the wrapper on camera, and they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do these viewing sessions because everybody's watching it. They can run ads or whatever they're doing on that. So you raise a really good point, because I think we've just seen the tip of the iceberg with these creators and what they do and what aspect they can bring to the old school sales component of everything else.
Yeah. I mean, some of the children channels on YouTube, some of the most popular videos are unboxings of birthday presents, opening birthday presents. Views are absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about, specifically women-run brands, right? The president of PIMS is a woman, and a lot of the companies we work with, whether it's in beauty and cosmetics, really focus a lot of attention on helping these women create their own brands in their own space, and we think it's wonderful for sure. Sure,
Yeah.
talking for you as well. Along the way, you've had to have some people that you sort of looked at and said, I want to be like her, or she does this really good, or the hundreds of times that you probably wanted to give up and just be like, you know what, I can't do this anymore, where somebody threw an arm around you, even if it's verbally, and said, you'll get through this, do this and this. Maybe you could talk about some of the mentors or people that you worked with or known along the way that have really helped you become where you are.
Yeah, I think that any woman that starts a business is inspiring to me because the cards are stacked against you. So whether it's like looking up to people or even just looking at my contemporaries and people that are doing amazing things in the space, I find Sedge, who actually introduced
Sedge
us.
Beswick, we love her. She introduced us, yeah.
I think that she has been transparent, and she's highly intelligent and has great views on the space and shares them on LinkedIn, and has also spoken about her journey with motherhood. And it is just, she's very refreshing to follow. I mean, I met her at the awards and then we went for a coffee together, but I feel a bit sorry for her because the coffee was definitely when I was in like peak burnout, and I think I was probably actually weeping at one point. But I know that she had been through some of those stages before as well, so it was actually sent her a Christmas card and was like, we should get a coffee, and again, I'm not burnt out anymore, things are going okay.
You saved me.
There's a lady called Charlotte Stavry who runs 7-6 Agency. They won Creator Marketing Campaign of the Year. She's doing a lot of stuff on personal branding. She also runs reports on the influencer pay gap and is making strides in the space. She's a B2B creator, an influencer. So I appreciate following her. There is Jenny Quigley-Jones with Digital Voices. She's growing massively. It's good to see people, I think we're in quite a nice position that we can watch everybody doing things from a different perspective, because we're not an agency, we're not talent management, we are independent from that. We don't have comparison things, and I think when one person wins, everybody wins, and that's
right.
really nice.
Good one. I like that.
Stevie Springs, CBE, she actually came up with you're sort of influence the influencers, aren't you? And so that went on quite a few things. She was chairman of Mind. She might still be chairman of Mind Charity. She was on the board of the co-op. So as someone at like top level looking at that, she's been great over the years. I actually started a podcast. Oh, Grace Beverly. Sorry, now I'm on. She came on the podcast. I think she'd only just launched Tala. This was quite a few years ago. But I love that she is so open about the fundraising process and sharing her pitch decks, and so that's a whole other thing. Starting a business that doesn't rely on venture capital is one thing, but then going through the rigmarole of trying to fundraise is just hellish. So I think she's doing some great work in the space. I'm going to continue because now I'm thinking about all the amazing women. There's a lady called Melanie Kentish. She was head of influencer at Sky. She has now started Dopamine Studios, and she just wants other people to succeed. She's just a good egg, and she has done introductions that lead to stuff, and she didn't need to, and it makes such a difference. There's also a lady called Jess Markwood, who's at the Fifth part of News UK. She's always been such a big champion for what we're doing. And people are championing the work when they don't want anything like in return. It's just,
You say the word community, and that's it right there.
yeah.
And I'm sure you're on the list of many folks too, as to pointing to you as somebody that they hold dear to them as a reason for them continuing on in their path. So kudos for that. How does somebody get involved with bCreator, whether it's they want to be a sponsor or they want to just attend or they want to be nominated for an award? How do we do that?
Yeah, so to sponsor the event, there's a form on our website, or if you're listening to this now and you're interested, drop me an email. It's Alice at bcreator.co.uk, Jamie at bcreator.co.uk, fields quite a lot of that as well. And then if you are interested in putting yourself forward, you can put yourself forward. It's free to enter the awards. You only need one nomination to be considered. Nominations will open at the end of March this year, which is a little earlier. And then you can also put in, if your industry campaigns, you can also put your talent agency forward, etc. And then the shortlist gets announced in June, and then we have a big page of FAQs on sort of how it works on the site, but it's a split between our bCreator committee and also public vote. So the bCreator committee in most instances make up 60% of the vote, so it's not entirely, we don't want it to just be a popularity contest, we want to have the discernment of the committee on there as well. So we feel like that balance works quite well. And the committee, after we got called the Oscars for creators by numerous people, they definitely started with one person, it's like, yeah, we'll take this. We sort of looked actually towards the Oscars, what do they do, and looked at their academy of judges. So actually, we can really build this out now. As I mentioned before, we are sort of independent, so we do have access in a way to everybody because we're not a competitor.
It's refreshing, right?
Yeah, so nice. So we built out the committee in 2023. We had Sir John Hegarty on there. We had Sir Martin Sorrell. We had Stevie Spring. We had amazing creators on board as well. Nikki Lilly, Stephanie Yeboah, some great people. And then each year that sort of developed. And actually this year will be the first year that, because it's a night and it is like the ultimate networking, it's the who's who of the UK creator economy. You don't get those people in a room anywhere else. You've got the managers, you've got the agencies and the creators themselves. So what we're going to do with the committee this year is also run a creator committee brunch, which will happen in March as well. I haven't actually got in contact with people to let them know that, but if they're listening to this, whenever this comes out, we're excited to do. And we've actually just signed a deal with Love Honey as well, who were one of our sponsors in 23, and they've come back. So we've got some exciting plans with them. And then ITV will be doing a lot of,
What's the date and where's the venue this year?
We don't want any gate crashes, but I'll tell you, it's in London and it's the 9th of October.
Excellent.
Thursday the 9th of October.
Looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah.
Alice, now comes the part of the podcast that you weren't expecting. It's a series of this or that type questions.
Okay.
We call it the lightning round.
Was it going to be my motherhood series? How do you balance it with being on that? I don't know how people do, but no, I have a nephew and a niece. I think, Sedge being and her open and transparent about motherhood is definitely,
I love watching those little snippets she puts in. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This has to do, I mixed it up a little bit between award ceremonies and online opportunities. Again, this or that, whatever comes to your mind quickest, that's what you say. Ready? Here we go. Alice Audley, get ready. Here we go.
Okay.
Snapchat, TikTok, or Instagram?
Instagram.
Vlogging or live streaming?
Vlogging.
Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts?
Instagram Reels.
In-studio setup or outdoor shoots?
Outdoor shoots.
Micro influencers or macro influencers?
That's I can't say. All creators.
Good answer. Now we go to the awards part of it. Here we go. Red carpet arrivals or award ceremony speeches?
Award ceremony speeches.
By the way, I meant to mention this too. Yet another cool thing about the bCreator Awards, if you go online and check it out, is what everybody's wearing. It's unbelievable, some of
It's
these
good, isn't it?
outfits. It's very
This
cool.
is the safe space. People get as creative. It's dressed to impress and like glam, but yeah.
So cool. Live streamed events or in-person ceremonies? I think I know the answer to this.
Yeah, in-person ceremonies.
Public voting or industry voting?
Industry voting.
Nominee interviews or backstage exclusives?
Nominee interviews.
Last one. Award show with big performances or no performances?
Big performances. Yeah.
Alice Audley, you have been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. From your new home, congratulations, your new
Thank
home.
you. With my little bit of paint.
I love that.
This is the color I'm thinking, everybody.
They're watching this going, is that something on my
Yeah,
screen?
they're like, what is this? What is this? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Much success. Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.